Bill met with him, couldn't, so he talked with him privately. So he got it filled in.
Must be nice.
Well, you could too.
No, I couldn't. No, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't be possible. That's an option. I'm not allowed.
I'll take you with.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is a special presentation before the Troy City Council. We have with us this evening Brendan Kennedy from BST, who will be presenting along with the members of the administration, the AFR, the annual financial report that was filed with the State Controller's Office recently for the year 2024. So Brendan, I'm going to just ask you to dive right in. Go for it.
For folks watching out there, first and foremost, I want to thank Gabrielle, Rick, my deputy mayor Seamus. I'm not sure if Rick is here, or Corp Counsel, and certainly BST. Where we are today compared to last year is truly remarkable. And I'll let Brendan talk about that. 2023, we all know, when we took office in 2024, the books weren't closed from 2023. Several requisitions, actually all requisitions from March of 2023 was not input. Little did we know at that time the impact that that would have on the accounting. The good news here and what you're going to hear tonight, we are financially strong to really pulled that trigger with our 1980s accounting system, which is called KVS. And I'm sure also, Brendan, I'd like you just quickly to touch upon that, but there was several $100,000s appropriated by the prior council, which I happen to be on. But unfortunately, that trigger wasn't pulled to implement that new accounting system. Our payroll system, as you know, is still on paper. The KVS system is going to become extinct to the point that, the workers there are strongly advising to turn to another accounting system and new technology. So the good news, it's going to take about 12 to 18 months to implement Tyler technology. I want to thank the council for working with us to get that started, get it implemented. So we should be good to go in 12 to 18 months, but certainly it's going to be a huge undertaking. So fast forward from when the books weren't closed to literally requisitions, not input into the system to 2024. As you know, the 2024 audit complete. As you also know, financially strong from, I apologize, the 2023 audit. The 2023 AFR has been filed. The Comptroller's Office is reviewing it as we speak. Certified and filed. The 2024 AFR, which is in front of you, has been filed. It was filed on Monday. And now we will bring it to Brendan, who is one of the partners at BST and really has been the main crux who has really carried this forward with 2 or 3 folks from his shop who are spearheading this. So we want to thank BST. I did want to give an update. As you know, we have hired a headhunter to search for a comptroller. We have 2 more interviews tomorrow. We have some very strong prospects, and we will keep you apprised of that, obviously. We need and want to get a comptroller on board ASAP. I, once again, cannot say enough about Gabrielle and her team. Gabrielle right now is the treasurer, and they're just doing a phenomenal job. Additionally, it has been mentioned BST, how much we are paying BST. I'd also like Brendan to clarify that, but it is not, once again, what you hear or read as most things, unfortunately. So we'll be here to answer questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Brendan. Thank you again, Brendan, and take it away. Thanks.
Would you please use the mic, Brendan?
I'm so excited to start here too.
We're
Well-
excited to have you.
Folks, I understand that this document got to you late Monday. You had Tuesday to look at it. You had part of the day today. So obviously we can go through any of your questions that you have tonight. If you think of a question tomorrow, the next day, thereafter, shoot those questions off to Gabrielle. I'll work with the finance team to do those, you know, and by way of a background, the mayor kind of hinted, 2024 got off to a bad start in the comptroller's office. We lost Andy, and there's no replacing a good comptroller. Having a good comptroller in place, a good quarterback is everyone's desire, and I can assure you it's my desire as well. I hoped at this point we would be training and working with a new comptroller, but here we are. So, and again, you know, we got off to a slow start. Even through February, BST was still working with Bonadio to wrap up the 2023 financial and single audits for the city of Troy. So when it comes to 2024, we did do a little bit of interim work. If you recall, we did our best to get you those interim numbers. I know you folks were all accustomed to those quarterly reports, and we'd like to resume that. We were in survival mode last year. We were truly figuring out the approach that the previous comptroller took. And it did take us a little while to figure out how everything works. It took us a little while to figure out how the system functions. It is a bit antiquated, as the mayor said. And so it does create a little bit of extra work when it comes to producing financial reports. Personally, you should be receiving monthly financial reports, not quarterly financial reports. And that's the goal when you have a financial information system like the Tyler Technologies. It should be able to press the button and get financial data more easily. So the focus is going to be at least on those quarterly reports. And as I'll highlight in the presentation, we're shifting immediately to those Q1 report and also starting the audit process with Bonadio. But anyways, I have this brief presentation here. We'll walk through that, and then you folks can fire off your questions. We'll obviously do our best to answer those questions. To the extent we can't answer those questions, you can see this is about a 150-page document. I love to say I have every single number memorized. I do not. Again, we focused on the 2024 closeout in the March timeframe so that we could have this thing filed on time. So, working off of this table of contents here, we're going to give you an executive summary. We'll talk about the AFR and what it entails, what the next steps are. I put together a few financial notes on our key operating funds, the general water, sewer, and garbage, and then just talk about what the next 3 or 4 months are going to look like. So we're on the table of contents. We have not gotten too far for our member here. Okay, so the 2024 AFR, I'm on page 3 now. We filed that on Monday, as you said. For cities of our size, we have essentially 120 days. The due date is actually tomorrow. It happened to be May 1st, so a few days early. It did take, again, a lot of March and into April to reconcile things. The administration said it was okay that I took a vacation in April on the school break with my kids. So we let everything sit for a week, and we waited to come back and then, you know, do a little cold review of the numbers to make sure sure everything looked good. So we were actually in a pretty good position by the end of the second full, or the end of the first full week of April. We prepare the AFR, which is akin to a financial statement, using your accounting records. These are not our accounting records. We're using the trial balance that you folks have supplied. And obviously, there's a significant number of reconciliations and reconciling items and going through the process that the previous comptroller would have done to close out a fiscal year. And that's what the focus was. And I can tell you, 2024 went way faster than 2023. 2023, as I mentioned, we were in that triage mode where we're still trying to figure everything out. Once we had our arms around everything, the 2024 closeout probably took, all in, took me a couple weeks with the assistance of Gabrielle, her team, and some of my team as well. So a much faster process, which gives me comfort that we should hopefully be able to get you guys those Q1 or those reports that you need now that we got this down. And again, in an effort to also reduce the burden of the services, identify things that we did that maybe the folks here in the treasurer's office and the comptroller's office can do as well. So shift some of the work that we're doing now that we understand things and get that back into the hands of the city of Troy. All right. So there was a significant number of adjustments. That's just the way the system works and the way things are set up. Everything's been posted. And so again, as I reiterated, we were really working on, we didn't really get a chance to work on 2024 until that March and April timeframe. And so again, that final designation is earned after the state comptroller reviews it. We prepared it. It was certified by Gabrielle, the city CFO, but we're not done. It's very common for the state comptroller to review and come back with questions, at which point we then have to develop responses to those questions, and BST will be available to assist the city with responses to those questions. Okay. Any questions so far? Moving on. So there's a reason why this document is so long. You have quite a bit number of funds. Obviously, we're a full service municipality. Each of these financial statements has a balance sheet. It has an income statement. There's essentially a roll forward of your equity. And then certain funds like the general fund and your major special revenue funds, we also have to include the next year's budget information in those. The K and the W tend to be more schedules, although they're listed in the financial statements. And then there's a number of supplemental schedules. So just when you think you're done, there's more work to do. The statement of indebtedness needs to reconcile to the W fund. The bond repayments, that's essentially a roll forward of your debt. All of those principal payments have to tie back to the funds. And then after that, we have our bank reconciliation. The bank reconciliation was done quite simply. I reached out to Dave Farr from Pioneer Bank. I got all the bank balances. He gave me the outstanding checks, and we came up with some potential deposits in transit, just like you would reconcile your own checkbook, except the fact that we have like 30 checkbooks here, which is a whole nother story and maybe someday another little side project. But the bank balances and the cash that you have reported are derived exactly from records of the Pioneer Bank. And all of the cash that's reported amongst the funds in total needs to tie to that bank reconciliation in the back. So as I'm alluding to here, this document is prepared in the state comptroller's web-based system, and there are significant number of edit checks that system has before you can submit. I actually went to look and I found there was a manual on all the edit checks, and it was 88 pages long. So all of these edit checks are organized by critical and non-critical. You cannot submit the AFR for certification to the city CFO if there is a critical edit check. If there is a non-critical check, it usually requires some kind of explanation, and it could prompt an inquiry from the state comptroller. But Those are much more common. Okay. You know, this slide is a bit anecdotal. I won't spend a lot of time on it. It's just to tell you what the pain is like out there. There is and if you Google it, there's a national shortage of accountants. This is a subject that came up at GFOA. It is hard to find good people. And when you think about, losing a good comptroller, it's a real big blow. A real big blow. And if you want to ask somebody else, ask your neighbors. Some of them are going through it. Saratoga Springs is going through it right now. They lost their long-term finance person. They have a third-party CPA firm helping them. We're the Bonadeo in that case. We're the auditors of the city of Saratoga Springs, and a CPA firm is going to be doing the reconciliations. I don't want to go on record, but I'm guessing that AFR is not getting filed tomorrow. So there's a lot of pain out there, and I just wanted to show you guys what it's like. 393 local governments haven't filed their 23 AFR. OSC is a bit worried. So it's pretty tough out there. Okay. Next steps. So where are we at? As mentioned, we just filed this thing. This thing is in there. So we're not done. The state comptroller does a review. All right. And in essence, what happens in the system is we send it to them, and then when they review it, they're going to send it back to us. And they're going to ask, if I had to speculate, anywhere from 5 to 20 questions. And those questions could be about fluctuations and balances. They might hate the way I reported something in the debt fund, meaning the supplemental debt schedule. They always come back with something. All right. And so I've emailed the state comptroller to let them know, hey, we submitted on time. We'd love for a prompt review of our AFR because we're prepared to address any questions that you folks might have. They didn't respond back, but I'd have to imagine this is kind of their busy time because a lot of people are filing right about now. But we'll see if I have any juice in getting our review turned around. Probably not. So that's what happens next. We prepared this AFR we really used a lot of data through March. It's possible data may come in that could change the way we looked at things and change the way we want to report things. For example, when we were doing accruals last year, we were using almost the June 30th period. If we had received a grant fund in May or June, we accrue, and it pertained to the 23 period, we would accrue that back. In a perfect world, we would know all the grant funds that are coming to us, but in our world right now, we're just doing a retrospective look back. So to the extent anything that comes to our attention that may require, and generally we'd be looking for material things, we'll have that opportunity to amend the AFR if there's any material adjustments. On top of the OSC review and on top of us keeping our eyes open for, any potential changes to the document, we still have to get audited, right? We have an external audit. It feels like we just finished our audit, and that's because we did just finish our audit. But we're going to start significantly earlier. In fact, we've set up a planning call with Bonadeo for next week, just to let them know, hey, we're here. We have the AFR filed. We have these trial balances. We think they're good enough for you to start your work. And, the good news is too, that a lot of the reconciliations and things that Bonadeo will want for the audit are done. And so I did a lot of those reconciliations as part of the AFR prep. Again, all pointing towards hopefully reduced BSD time and a smoother process going forward. If there are any material changes from any one of these things, we will let you know. If we miss something or something came to our attention, Bonadeo finds something, you will be briefed on any changes of material substance to the AF. Okay? All right, so I think I already hit some of these points. The trial balances are going to go to Bonadio. That's really how an audit firm starts their audit. They take the trial balances, they import the trial balances into their audit software. They'll calculate prelim materiality. They'll figure out the areas of audit focus, and then they'll start sending us audit requests to which we'll respond. They use a portal system, and we simply upload those documents. And so again, many of those things that they want are already prepared. And again, I used when possible the templates that we could find from our previous comptroller and simply replicated those for the audit. And so we certainly hope it will be smoother and more timely. It certainly should be. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, well, it's up to you how much time we spend on these next few slides. I simply put together summarized financial data on pages 8, 9, 10, and 11. It's just to show you where some things landed actual results versus budget. And so what I tried to do in these next few slides is just point out a few anomalies and also a few things that we're still going to want to look at as we continue this process with the 2024 results. This just must be the way the budget's done, but it doesn't seem like we budget for the federal grant revenues when the 24 budget went out. And that's probably because there's uncertainty with how we were going to spend ARPA dollars. You know, we don't know the timing and results. And so when you look at the 24 budget versus actual, the bulk of that change is really just your federal grants. Of that 11.5, I want to say 8.9 was the ARPA you spent. That ARPA is a pass-through. We recognize the revenue and then we send it to the respective funds. It gets sent to the CM fund and it also got sent to your capital projects fund. There was about another $2 million between the federal and state. Most of them were public safety related grants. And those grants were certainly in need because when you start looking at your budgeted outflows or your expenses compared to your actual results, you can see that that bottom line, that interfund transfers out. That's mostly two things. That's the 8.9 million in ARPA that went out. And there's also some incremental transfers for the debt service fund as part of our repayment of our bands and our bonds. But the one line that you really kind of can't ignore is your public safety line. It's expensive. You know, I tried to hone in on what that big increase was. It was mostly personnel costs. And so luckily we did have some of those grants, I think, which you know, helped address those costs. And then when you looked at the other public safety types of expenses, contractual, capital, so on, they were a little more favorable to budget. So it truly was personnel costs in that public safety that was throwing that off. So anyways, just those are some highlights on the general fund. Obviously, there's gobs of granular detail that make up this summary in the AFR. Okay. Garbage fund. There is one weird thing that we're going to be chatting with Bonadio about. You'll see the revenues. You'll see a nice little spike there of $514,000. Really, only two of that is operational. I went back in time. I was looking at this accrued liability on the books, and I noticed that it hadn't changed between 23 and 24. It seemed to be around in 2022, and for the life of me, I have no idea. It was simply an accrued expense on the books, and I thought maybe it was tipping fees, and there was a lag on how we paid our tipping fees. So I went through those invoices, and sure enough, the 12/31 waste management tipping fee is sitting in accounts payable. So it's not like we're on a 6-month lag. I truly can't prove what that liability was, so I have reversed it. Okay, and I'm going to work with Bonadio on that. So when we talk about things that could change, I'm bringing this to your attention. This is a bit of an odd scenario where this accrual has just been there since 2022. It somehow kind of got through in 2023, and I flipped it out in 2024. All right. If it turns out to be a valid accrual, which I don't think it is, because there was literally zero activity during the entire 2024, we'll address it then. And so, as you know, the garbage fund is dependent upon general fund revenues to sustain or balance its books, if you will. All right. And so truly, this is what I would call in government a one shot. It's kind of a one shot pickup because we reversed an accrual. I'm also going to see what the state comptroller thinks, if they think it should be more of a correction rather than just, I have it currently booked as a refund of prior period expenditures. We'll see. So, we can flag that one and we'll revisit that. But because of, one, the increase in revenues, two, this reversal to balance the books, meaning to keep the garbage fund flat and not in a deficit position, we did not have to transfer as much money as we planned to balance the books of the budget. If this turns out to be a valid expense, which again, I have no evidence of, then the general fund probably would want to transfer money to balance that. The general fund has a surplus of about 850K as of right now. And so the general fund could sustain that transfer without putting itself in the deficit position. But yeah, the garbage fund, absent any significant increases in customers, absent any significant increases in rates, you're going to be in the future continuing to transfer funds to balance that fund. Water fund, everything kind of came in right on budget, at least from a revenue perspective. I didn't double back and check out the water rates. I know I'm a proponent of systematic and rational water and sewer rate increases and tax increases. That's how you stay out of trouble. The interfund or the intermunicipal revenues are all reconciled, making sure we had 2 bills sent from our semi-annual customers, and 4 bills were sent for our quarterly. So we've made sure that's correct. I think on the commercial side, if you were to look at just the regular city residents, it was up about 6 or 7%. And then when you get to the operating expense side, the transfers out, which came in favorable. There's 2 components to that. One, there's the transfer of the surplus to the general fund that's budgeted for $1,475,000. We had a surplus, so we could make that transfer. Secondly, the way I calculated the debt service transfers is I went through every single piece of debt you have, and I made sure, and then in certain instances, you have a piece of debt that is multi-purpose. And so you might have a bond that is water related, sewer related, and general fund related. And our financial advisors actually break those out. And so even in those multi-purpose bonds, you can figure out each respective fund's portion of the debt service that needs to be transferred. And so when you see some of these little differences, I went off what that fund actually should have paid rather than the budget from an accounting perspective. And so that'll be something to be mindful of when we go prep the 26 budget is, check out my debt schedules. And when we get into 26, let's make sure we have everything perfectly aligned. I mean, ultimately, the debt service was adequately covered by every single fund. So sewer fund, go figure, it matched water. The revenues were pretty close to budget. It also on this page, one other item we're in the process of following up, and it's a transfer item. It has to do with the sewer overflow project. I noticed that we did not make that transfer during 2024. That would be a transfer to the capital projects fund. And so what we're going to do post is evaluate every single capital project, basically put together for every project a mini balance sheet and a mini income statement, and then determine whether that transfer should have been made in 2024. And so the positive news is that if we did, and we should have made a transfer of $967,000, the sewer fund can absorb that. I don't think anyone intended for the sewer fund to have a $1.2 million surplus. So obviously that kind of jumps out at you. That's what it's at right now. And again, if that fund has to make the transfer too, the sewer fund would be able to sustain that transfer. Okay. Again, in this third bullet point down, I just kind of anecdotally mentioned the methodology for calculating the transfer to the debt service. I put together spreadsheets, based on Andrew Watkins and fiscal advisors. And so I feel pretty comfortable about the money each fund is proportionally sending to the debt service fund for their share of debt. Okay. God, I thought this was going to go faster. The mayor mentioned Tyler Technologies. We're implementing Munis. Munis is the software system. It's a very good system. It's very popular. Here's what I want to warn everyone. Everyone should perk their ears up. This is no easy process to implement a system like this. And so we're already a little short-staffed, right? We don't have our comptroller in place. Gabrielle is running around like a mad woman. You're doing fantastic, by the way. This takes almost another FTE. And so you folks at the council and everyone, you might want to just think about that. I mean, these are not even formal discussions I've had with the mayor. Do not underestimate the implementation level of effort. You need a champion, and that champion needs to be on point with this implementation. If you can get this implementation off and done correctly, it should help. It should make things smoother. It should enhance your ability to oversee the finances here at the city. And that's where we start talking about going from quarterly reports to monthly reports and things in real-time data. So that in my experience and looking at the way things are done, that's probably why you get quarterly, is it's such a robust process to accumulate financial data in the KVS system. That would be my guess. So just put a little asterisk next to that and make sure we have this covered from a staffing perspective. Certainly Gabrielle can only do so much. We talked a little bit about that Q1 summary report. Give us a little chance to breathe here. We're going to move into, starting the 2024 audit process with Bonadio, but I don't see why we shouldn't be able to get you a Q1 report by the end of May. That's essentially 2 months after close. That's okay. I think we can do better in the future. And the goal would be, again, to continue those reports. And, I know I have the templates of what you got. if there's other data or information you're looking for as part of those quarterly reports, just let us know. We can try and incorporate any modifications that you folks might want to see.
Brendan, we have a finance meeting on May 21st. Would that be reasonable to expect?
Gonna be close. I'll try.
Thank you.
I'll try. I do my best. You know, it's the
Or the
expenditure.
22nd, I'm sorry.
22nd. The expe-
22nd.
the
Get you an
expe-
extra today.
Thank you. The expenditure data is actually pretty easy to pull together. It's the revenue side of things, to be honest with you. And you know, we'll talk. You know, the expenditure data could be pulled together very quickly. You know, if management here wanted to look at that monthly, it's the revenues coming from 15 different places and enterprise versus standard and interfaces and manual entries, and it's hard. But the payroll and your contractual expenses and your debt service, that all gets processed very quickly and just kind of as you would expect. So just shut up. All right, a few other things we want to look at. You know, these aren't material, but they could end up being little pickups for the city. You know, I keep looking at these overpayment accounts. They're basically liability accounts. And so when someone overpays something, obviously accounting is always two-sided. We're debiting cash and then we're crediting this overpayments because we owe somebody their money back. The problem is over time, we're unable to repay these people. And so this liability, you know, I had Matt Jones from BSD go through, it's really just kind of aggregated over a 10-year period. And so maybe there's $600,000 or $700,000 or $800,000 sitting in this account. Obviously, the city should make a good faith effort to return the funds to the rightful owners. But after exhausting such an effort, it could be a pickup and swept probably into the respective fund. Years ago, I checked with the state comptroller about these cheap property laws and abandoned property laws, and I was told that it's not applicable to municipalities. So in a similar instance, guarantee and bid deposits are another example where things tend to aggregate over time. Companies change, companies go bankrupt, companies, whatever, and you're just sitting on this money and you don't know what to do. So there's some liabilities out there that I think we should investigate. You know, from a conservative accounting standpoint, these are reported as liabilities on the books. It's just, you know, when we have time to do an investigation into these things, and who knows, maybe somebody's owed some money, we can get that back to them. It's accounted for. Also, I mentioned the capital projects. We have a lot of capital projects. That's another thing that makes this city very difficult in a good way, because you're doing a lot of great things here. We have, from an AFR standpoint, all of your capital projects are commingled into one fund on the AFR. I think we need to break them down. I think we need to look at them on an individual basis, make sure the funding is appropriate for each project. The other thing that can kind of happen is if you have leftover bond proceeds, that could be sitting in the capital projects fund as well. So, you know, now that we have our arms around these big accounting functions and transactions, it might be time to shift gears into some of these things and just clean up some of these loose ends, if any so exist. In doing so, also, we'll verify about that transfer from the sewer fund to the capital projects fund. It was budgeted for, the money's there. And if that project needs the money, we should have made the transfer. Okay. Those were my prepared remarks. I'm going to presume there's some questions. We'll certainly do our best to answer them. And we'll go from there.
Thank you very much. The mayor alluded to the fact that the payment information that has been published is incorrect. So would you, payment to you, BST. So would you correct the record there as to what we have paid out to your firm at this point in time?
No objections, I assume. I wrote it down. We got 137 in 2023. In 2023, you paid 114 approximately to Pro Nexus. And I'm not picking on anyone, but when we came on board, we had to redo a fair amount of work. Unfortunately. I'm not picking on, trying not, remember Switzerland. 2024, we're at a comparable amount. And the reason is because we were still working on 23. And then the amount of work we've done on 2024 is significantly less. And so obviously, like many municipalities, the goal is to stretch our buck as far as possible. I would presume that the level of effort in 2024, for 2025 will be significantly less.
And
That's-
and the plan is for you to continue here functioning until we have a new controller, or until the controller is hired and comfortable?
Yeah, at this point, we're in essence providing accounting services. And so there is no, as I mentioned before, there's no replacement for a good comptroller. Depending on the skills and qualification, we'll play any role that you want us to play. And if you told us to pack up and leave tomorrow, we'll pack up and leave tomorrow.
Please don't.
No, we won't. No, we've really enjoyed it. And I'll, to kind of echo some of the mayor's comments, you got a lot of great people here. You got a lot of great people who are very good at their respect roles. And so it has gotten better, at least from my perspective, because now we know all the players, we know where all the data is, and we should be able to move significantly faster. Whatever you need, if the comptroller is a wizard and they tell us to get out of their way, get out of their way. We're truly here as long as you need help. And that's our objective.
Brendan, have you given this presentation to anyone else prior to the council?
This right here,
Yes.
just to the
The mayor.
administration, the mayor. It got sent yesterday morning or last night to review. They found a couple typos, but there were no edits beyond that.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to any council members who have questions.
Council President.
Councilmember Vera.
Going back, I know we're on the 2024 AFR, but going back to 23, has the city submitted a revised? When was the last time the city submitted a revised 2023 AFR? You said that there's like a back and forth
Sure.
with OSC.
Yeah. So, well, I'll give you the whole timeline. You can log on and see every single AFR going back to 2014. I have view rights, and then Gabrielle can assign me as the city CFO preparer rights. And so I was assigned preparer rights for 23. And then she has to reassign me as a preparer for 2024. I am officially Troy user 6. So the previous comptroller and Pro Nexus, or Dylan, they filed something. They obviously figured out a way to make all those edit checks check. And it was determined to be unreliable. And so the administration pulled it. When I scanned that, I concluded it was unreliable as well. So they were correct. I specifically cited the example of how I in theory, cash should be reconciled every month, should be meticulous. It should be, it's hard to do that with the number of bank. So at least at year end, third-party data, Pioneer Bank. I did this for 23 as well. That was one of the first things I did when I came here. I said, Dave, because I've worked with David Farr from Pioneer, emailed David, CC Gabrielle. Hey, we need your bank balances as of 12/31/2023. You folks use Positive Pay, which is a good check and balance. It's a good banking control. So Pioneer Bank knows every single check you've written that hasn't cashed. And so bank balance minus outstanding checks plus deposits in transit, and there wasn't a ton. It was not a material number. That's how much cash you have. Okay. It's that simple. And if you took that number and I compared it to your originally filed AFR, it was off like $8 or $9 million. So 23 was particularly difficult because there was a significant amount of work that had to be undone or figured out, and then figure out the proper way that the folks here at the City of Troy do things. Okay. So then we submitted a revised AFR in November, again, based on available known facts and circumstances. We were still in the middle of the audit process. And quite frankly, we totally weren't done, but we needed to have at least something filed with OSC at that point. Certain numbers were accurate. Like I could tell you the cash was reconciled and things of that nature. OSC got it. And then they said, how far along are you with the audit? And that was one of the bullet points that might've been my presentation, is sometimes OSC, I shouldn't say sometimes, they always ask for the audit too. So they wanted to take Bonadio's 2023 audit, compare it against the AFR I filed. And we said it wasn't ready. The audit wasn't done. You know, we didn't get the audit until the beginning of March, as you know. And so they basically kicked it back and said, well, we'll look at it when the audit's done. And so as the audit progressed and the numbers were done moving, we updated the AFR one final time. There were changes, and we submitted that. And I think OSC came back with like 2 questions. We responded to those 2 questions. Maybe we had to put this number over here versus there. It's always something. And it was approved. And then they basically opened up 24 for us.
So when was the 23 AFR approved by OSC?
March
In March?
or March of 25.
Is there any reason then why I went on to OSC's website to pull
Mhm.
some previous data to kind of compare to the 24 numbers.
Yeah.
And the 23 audit that the 23 AFR that they have on file that I'm able to log on and download doesn't match the 23 data that's shown in the 24 AFR.
In
Is
this
it
one?
correct?
We
And I noticed on the city website, there's a 23 AFR that appears to have been printed sometime in April.
you don't want that one.
That
April of 24.
April of this year.
Okay.
And those numbers match the 24 AFR that we have in front of us tonight.
The 23.
The 23 AFR
Okay.
on the city website that
So
was
there's
printed
something
April
with-
8th of 25. It matches the data that's in front of
Okay.
us this
We'd have
evening.
to ask the state
So
what they.
is that just because OSC had some revisions and
No, the 23 AFR that we have filed is that's the one,
That's
the
the
one
one?
that they
Okay.
approved. So, I mean, I don't
and that
know.
was filed, you're saying in March?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was been approved. Yeah.
Okay.
It like if you, well, I guess it doesn't print. But like when it's not, it says like, not final. There's a designation if I had a computer, I could log in and show you. But And then the 23 numbers that are in this
Mhm.
should tie to the penny to what the final 23 was.
Okay. Yeah, for whatever reason, the numbers that are on OSC's website don't match. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Your tax dollars, not mine.
Regardless, I'll move on to the 24 audit. I had a couple of questions about specific, I'm sorry, AFR, about specific line items.
Yeah.
One of those being what I assume is our sales tax revenue. Is that 1120 in the general fund?
What page you on?
Councilman, that's what I was going to ask. If you could say what.
Yeah, page number 8, line item 1120.
Page 8, 1120. Yep,
That's sales tax.
correct.
How did we arrive at that figure?
That is, there's an accrual. So your Q4 is sitting as a receivable, so it really comes in March. And then it would be the 3 previous collections during the fiscal year before that. So it's not on a cash basis.
So that number does not reflect the revenue generated from the 2024, the year. It has to do with when the revenue is received. The only reason I bring it up is because my understanding was sales tax was flat between 23 and 24 at the county level. But we're showing an additional 1.7 million on that line item is.
Yeah, we'll pull the 4 receipts for you and get, I mean, it's 4 payments.
And those payments were all received in 24.
No, that's cash basis. There's a payment that's collected in 25 that pertains to 24.
For the 24 year though.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
So they are, the payments that would show up in that line item are for sales tax collected in 2024 at the county level. There's just
Should
a
be,
lag
yes.
in when we get the payment.
Yeah.
Okay. There was an interesting item under some of these bank accounts. I think the account was 2409. That would be on page 109.
109. Give me a sec.
What's that? Yeah. This looks to be somehow related to what you were saying before about outstanding
Yep.
checks. So that checking account has a balance of 1.1 million, but has checks that were written from it totaling 3.7. Is that correct?
Yeah, those I can get the accounts that those, yes. Good question. That is the account that Pioneer said those checks pertain to, so that's where I put them to. I'm not sure if Pioneer does a draw on your savings account, before the checks are presented. But the 3.7 is your outstanding checks. And they associated them with account 2409. Obviously, there's money you have plenty of money in your accounts. So if they sweep it, on a draw basis, we can get an answer for you though, if you want to follow up.
And then the only other question I have at this point was, looking through the different types of accounts, general, special grant, water, sewer. I noticed that accounts payable had
Mhm.
gone up between 23 and 24. Is there any particular cause for that? I want to say the number was somewhere around 4.7
Between all of them.
between all of them. Yeah.
Is that including the capital projects?
I believe it would, but just on, let me see here. I had gone through.
Capital projects, I updated just like I mentioned, I updated accruals for receivables. I also updated accruals for payables. And between the original AFR I prepared in like early April, we had the finance team go through payments through, I want to say early April to identify 20 cash payments made in 2025 that pertain to goods and services received in 2024. And so we made an adjustment for those. And so obviously those would have been an increase in accounts payable and then an increase in the corresponding expense.
Okay.
I don't know that there's a big explanation beyond timing.
Okay.
It could be when bills were paid. There's some anomalies in receivables that I looked into as well. And then it turned out a whole bunch of money got collected in early January. There was one in the water fund related to our intermunicipal sales. It had spiked quite a bit. And then sure enough, a bunch of cash came in early January. So, you know,
And looking here at page 75, yes, capital projects was a significant chunk of that 4.7 million.
I would say
It did. Yeah.
accounts payable. Yeah. We can get a list. I mean, it could be the capital projects of all the funds. Councilman is the least predictable, and you're probably going to see the least correlation between periods. You can see, and that's kind of the neat thing about the way they do their AFR now is you have a 3-year history. You can see that liability was almost 3 million in
Back in
2022.
22. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it dips, and then so it's all going to be timing related to your projects. Unfortunately,
So that could be receiving a large invoice for construction
there was absolutely a large
towards the end of the year, but
Could
the
be.
payment, right? Okay.
could be.
All right.
Yep, and we have an itemized list of what makes up that 2.5 million. If anyone cared to look at it.
Excellent. Thank you.
We're trying, I swear.
Any other questions?
But folks, as I said earlier, feel free to do a deep dive. If you have questions about these kinds of things, I think the councilman asked a lot of good questions there that says he's doing his due diligence and looking at things. We're happy to investigate. We're happy to do that comparative analysis and get back to you folks with questions. If you see something, that's part of the process of having accurate financial information, is having you folks do your due diligence as well and look at it. So I'm certainly open to any comments or questions you have about the document. Like I said earlier, it's not done, meaning OSC still has to do its thing. We have a little bit of legwork we wanted to do in the 2 instances that we identified. If we had to make transfers, we know those funds have the means to make them. And then, of course, if anything of substance comes to our attention that would, cause a number to change, you will be notified and an explanation will be provided. Right. We have, as the mayor just indicated, we have a kickoff call with Bonadio, Alan and Joe, and I'm hoping it's the same team. For my own sanity, it has to go smoother, let alone your good graces. So that audit, if we want to be fully compliant, the federal single audit filing deadline is September 30th. Some people wait right up until then. I would love to have it done way before then. So that's going to be the deal with Bonadio is, if you guys hold up your end, we'll hold up ours and get this done and in the rear view.
Any other questions? Council. Okay, well, thank you, Brendan. Appreciate it very much. Thank
Okay.
you.
Do I get to leave?
You get to leave.
All right. Oh, thanks, guys. Nice out. Couldn't have scheduled a meeting for a rainy day,
Thank you very much. Mayor, you mentioned we have a headhunter. Can you send us that information, please?
They don't get paid until, or if we end up hiring their candidate. We also have received a few resumes, believe it or not, from some federal workers who have been
Thank you,
let go.
Brendan.
Brendan, thank you.
Of course.
All right. Take care.
Hey, guys.
So if the headhunter comes through, I'm not sure of how much the headhunter gets paid. I'll let Shane talk about that, but we also have candidates coming through the website from, federal workers, as I mentioned, who were let go. So it's ticking up. Like I said, we have a couple strong prospects. We'll see where they go. We're very selective, obviously. But, as Brenda mentioned, I actually have received calls from surrounding local officials asking us for the candidates that we haven't progressed in terms of hiring, looking for candidates. And they are very local, and they're also from out in the Finger Lakes, where I know a bunch of local officials. So, as Brenda mentioned, this is not immune to Troy. It's not immune just to the capital region. It's throughout the state. I did apprise the comptroller's office where we were in terms of a comptroller. They said they're having a hard time finding accountants. Brendan just lost one of his accountants who actually was working for Troy. So it's a small pool out there, and they're naming the price, and they're working less hours. Whoever takes this position will have to learn a very archaic system, but the good news, Brenda and BST have learned that system now and will be able to help whoever. More importantly, implement Tyler, which is the new system. So, but saying that, Shane, I'll just, a couple seconds on the headhunter.
Yeah, so I can get you the exact number. We pay a $2,000 engagement fee with them to commence the search that they've been working at. There is a percentage they get ultimately of what the salary of the future comptrollers is. I don't want to misspeak, so I can get you that information.
Can you tell us who the headhunter is?
Yes,
What's the firm?
yes, it's a firm called TAB, TABB. And like I said, I can furnish that information for you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, how much longer do we have with the SAFER grant? Because I know Brendan mentioned public safety being a significant factor, but we've been relying on that for a number of years.
Yeah, I want to say the SAFER grant goes till the end of 2026. So
Really?
that is something that, we do have good grant writing out of the fire department. And they're constantly trying to go after any kind of grant opportunity, whether it's for staffing, radios, you name it.
All righty. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.